in India, there were communities of scribes. Brahmins were the main, and then there were the Kayasts, so the surnames like Saxena in North India, Srivastava, Saxena. In Odisha, they were called coroners. And the Brahmins and the Kayasts were competitors because they were like the bureaucrats. They were bookkeeping and accounting, maintaining records, very important for legal documents. So these were people very, very important in writing, and their god was Chitragupta. The Kayasts worshipped Chitragupta, the scribe of Yamaraj, and his symbol was the pen and ink. So that's an important thing to remember.
From last few episodes, we've been talking about language, oral culture. But what about writing and scripts? Let's know more in our today's episode of Art and Culture with Devdutt Pattanaik. Hello everyone, I am Manas Srivastava. Welcome to Indian Express's UPSC Essentials show, where we talk about art and culture, various themes, various topics with our expert Devdutt Pattanaik. Now, Devdutt, if you have seen in the past few weeks, we've been talking about language, predominantly oral culture. Let's move from language and speech to writing. So if you can tell our students that why and how scripts became so important in our country.
So in the last episode, we spoke about language. But now we will discuss scripts. And in scripts, we have to ask ourselves, why are scripts important? Script is when language is put down on paper or on any material, and therefore when you have writing and you've put it down, why is it important to put it down in writing? Many cultures, the Vedas for example, for hundreds and thousands of years was not transmitted by writing, it was transmitted orally. Now the reason is very simple. As long as it is oral, it remains with the people. But if let's say there are 10 people who remember everything and they were to die, what happens to that knowledge? You have no access to that knowledge. But if it was written down, then you have access to that knowledge, which means knowledge can exist without the human being, and that's what writing allows us to do, provided of course we can translate it and understand what they were trying to say. And that is what script brings to the table. It allows transmission of knowledge even in the absence of human beings.
That's important, Dave, that when you mentioned that writing helps in the transmission of knowledge. Now, since we've discussed the basic about writing and how is it different from language, let's also now understand that how did writing actually spread in India?
How did writing spread in India? Now, the earliest writing that we have is from the Harappan period, so 2500 BCE to 1900 BCE in the northwest part of India. After that, you have the Brahmi script appearing in the Ashokan edicts. Now, Ashokan edicts are about 2300 years old. So between the Harappan period, which is 4,000 years ago, and between these Ashokan edicts, the Brahmi script, which is 2,300 years, we have no other writing. So did writing exist at that time? We're really not sure. Just before the Mauryan period, perhaps writing was there in the form of on cloth and perishable material, but we have no proof. We have only proof of these carvings on pillars and rocks. There is also the Tamil Brahmi script found in Tamil Nadu on pot shards, and there is some ideas that perhaps this came before the Mauryan Brahmi script. Now, a little thing about Brahmi. The word Brahmi is linked to Jain traditions. It is said that Rishabhnath, the first of the 24 Tirthankars, had a daughter called Brahmi who knew the art of writing, and this might be a question that may be asked. Her sister Sundari was associated with numbers and mathematics. So it's something to remember. Now, Brahmi script gives rise to all the other scripts in India, the northern script, the southern script, and we must remember, so the northern script is like the Sharda script, which was used in Kashmir. In South India, there is the Vatteluttu script of Kerala, Tamil Nadu. The Pallavas introduced the Grantha script. Then there is in the western part, see how I'm going geographically. So north, I have got the Sharda script. South, I have the Grantha script. On the western side of India, you have what is called the Modi script, which was used by Marathi and Kannada people, which is cursive, that is continuous writing, that was used by scribe communities. In Odisha side, you have the Odia script. These were all Devnagari script. Really, it's Devnagari script which emerges from Brahmi script, and they all follow the same Varnamala, O, A, E, U, the same Varnamala which we now use in Hindi. So Devanagari is a very recent script. Before that, there was Grantha script, there is the Odia script. The easiest way is just look at a rupee note, a 100 rupee note, and you'll see all the scripts of India, and tells you how many scripts we have in India. They're not just the languages, they are the scripts in India, and that's something amazing.
That's interesting. In fact, that was something in my mind too, to pick up an Indian currency note and look at the various scripts used in our country. And students should try these practical things that retains in your mind for a longer time. Now, once we have understood the spread of writing, let's also talk about some of the important scripts in our history. For example, Indus script, the Indus script, and the Brahmi and Kharosthi script. So if you want to tell our students more about it.
So people are often intrigued by the script in the Harappan civilization. Now, Harappan seals, and they're these tiny seals, they're only 1 inch long. They're small, soft, made of soft stone. The impressions are made in clay, and we have got these small little seals around which something has been written. Now, we're not sure whether they're alphabets or emojis. Are they numbers? Probably. They're probably used for economic reasons, like they're used as for movement of goods for logistics purposes, raw materials, finished goods. So they're used perhaps in purchase orders. So it's a very mercantile function. Now, for that, you really need numbers, and you need just emojis to indicate who is the buyer, who is the seller, who is the supplier, who is the receiver, where does it come from. You may not need alphabet. So some of the scholars argue that these are not alphabets. This is not a it's a more visual script. It's like a symbol. It is not the way we the various scripts, like the way Hindi is written, and the way English is written, very different from that. So it's important to remember that the script is probably not a script, the Harappan script. Coming to the Brahmi script, as I said, it probably is influenced by Kharosthi script, which came to us from northwest India. The king wanted his presence to be felt across India, and Mauryan Empire was very strongly influenced by the Persian Empire. The Persian Empire used script on walls, and there's a Behustin carving on mountain walls to make king's proclamations. Royal proclamations were made, and that's exactly what Ashoka does. He has his Mauryan pillar edicts where he makes proclamations using the Brahmi script. The language is Prakrit, but the script is Brahmi. The Brahmi script is also used for Sanskrit later. You find the Rudradaman as a king who uses the Sanskrit language, but the Brahmi script to write his Prashasti or his royal proclamation around 100 CE, so about 400 years after Ashoka. Rudradaman in Gujarat side. You have the Hathi Gumpha inscription in Odisha, which is about 2100 years ago, where the word Bharat Varsha appears. Again in Brahmi script, again it is in, but the language is Prakrit. So it's before the Sanskrit script starts to be written. Remember, Sanskrit started being written very late. First the Prakrits were written, then the Sanskrits were written. Vedic Sanskrit was never written for a long time, because the Brahmins wanted to keep the language sacred, and they felt writing would corrupt it. So that's how Brahmi languages, the Brahmi scripts emerge. As I said, it transforms into Sharda script in North India, in which many of the Buddhist scriptures are written. Grantha script, Pallava script in South India. Modi script emerges in about 500-600 years ago in the western side of India, Maharashtra, Karnataka, different kinds of scripts. A northern script and southern scripts are very different. You will notice the northern script has a straight line across it, but this you don't find in the southern script, which are more round, and this is because of the writing material used, which we shall discuss in the next episode. But it is important to understand how the scripts change over time, and gradually, of course, now we have the Devnagari script, which is popular. Sanskrit has no script. Sanskrit is a language, it does not have a script. Prakrit is a language, it doesn't have a script. Both of them use Brahmi. North India, they would use Sharda, and then there's the Gupta Brahmi, and in South India, you have the Grantha script emerging, Vatteluttu script emerging in Kerala. So, different scripts.
Thank you, Devdutt. I think while you were discussing about the scripts, I was just thinking in my mind that these uh, pointers are so important even for prelims. Sometimes the questions are framed around these basic facts, and we wonder ki questions kahan se aaye. So these basics and these points are not just important for your prelims, but also for your mains when you build up your answer on these basic facts. Now, I was just going through your book, and I was also referring to other literature. Our scripts do not end here. There are so many other scripts, and I'm sure you want to tell our students, tell our aspirants and viewers about other scripts. So, if you can throw some light on other scripts that we should know.
So, which other scripts should students know about? Again, when it talks of scripts, you can see it from a time point of view and a space point of view, that is geography and history. Now, historically, Brahmi script is important. It starts around 2,300 years ago, so 300 BCE. Devnagari script, as we know it, emerges around the 7th century, so about 1200, 1300 years ago. But 500 years ago, Sikhism emerges, and the Sikh Guru Angad introduces the Gurmukhi script, in which the Guru Granth Sahib is written, and therefore declares it as a community. He uses script very politically to establish a community. It's important to remember that. Around 500 years ago, as I said, in the western part of the Maratha Empire uses the Modi script. Important to remember. There is something known as a Koroniya script, which was used in Odisha by the Korona community. It must be remembered in India who knew writing. The Brahmins knew writing, and there was a class of scribes known as Kayasts who were also writing. Maybe there's a question going to be asked. I don't know, caste is not a favorite topic in UPSC, but it's something to remember. In India, there were communities of scribes. Brahmins were the main, and then there were the Kayasts, so the surnames like Saxena in North India, Srivastava, Saxena. In Odisha, they were called coroners. And the Brahmins and the Kayasts were competitors because they were like the bureaucrats. They were bookkeeping and accounting, maintaining records, very important for legal documents. So these were people very, very important in writing, and their god was Chitragupta. The Kayasts worshipped Chitragupta, the scribe of Yamaraj, and his symbol was the pen and ink. So that's an important thing to remember. Another script is, of course, the Nastaliq script. The Nastaliq script comes with the Persians, with the Turks, with the Afghans, with the rise of Islam in India. The people start moving in from Persia, and they bring a new script into India, a new language. The language is Persian, the script is Nastaliq. We should remember this also. When the English people come, of course, they bring the Latin script, the English language, and the Latin script. So it gives you a sense of different scripts emerging. Important to remember, the Santals have developed recently their own script that is also to be remembered. In the eastern part of India, the Siddham script becomes important, from which you have the Odia script emerging about 1,000 years ago. The Bengali script comes about 700 years ago. There's the Assamese script, the Nepalese script, all related to Siddham script. Important to remember that. So Sharda in the north, Siddham in the east, Grantha in the south, Modi in the west. Central India, Nagari script becomes important, of course, but do not forget that in the 20th century, the Santali people created their own script. Important to remember that. We often forget the tribal communities of India.
All right, then. So we've covered so many things about scripts. Now it is students' homework to rewatch the episode and try to, retain the important key takeaways from this particular episode. Before going, towards the end of the show, let's take famous Point to Ponder by Devdutt Pattanaik.
So as we come to the end of this episode on scripts, I want you to think about, ponder about, some point to ponder about is when did paper come to India? And the clue lies in how we use, what is the word we used for paper and pen? Kagaz and kalam. And just by listening to this, you might get a clue. Think about it until the next episode.
Okay, that's an interesting point to ponder. It definitely gives us a hint that our next episode is going to be about writing material. So, dear aspirants, we've covered language, we've covered scripts. Now, of course, writing material is also important to understand, and from the perspective of art and culture. So that's probably the next episode which we are planning. And do write to us, do comment in the box below. You can also reach out to me at manas.srivastav@indianexpress.com. And don't forget to watch our live on Wednesday at 8 p.m. We'll be back with a new topic in the next episode, where we are going to discuss an important element of art and culture with our expert, Devdutt Pattanaik. This is Manas Srivastava signing off. Bye-bye.